Hey, thanks for checking out the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. I really appreciate you listening. Today we're going to talk with Associate Head Football Coach at Independence Community College out in Kansas, Coach Kiyoshi Harris. Today is a big day, July 20th, because Independence is also debuting on Netflix, big show on Netflix, Last Chance U. So this is season 3 of Last Chance U, going to be featuring Coach Harris's team. Coach Harris is entering his second season here in 2018 with Independence football program. He's going to be the offensive line coach, working alongside Coach Brown as the associate head coach. Coach Harris was born in Los Angeles, California. He attended high school at Canyon Springs in Moreno Valley. He was a standout junior college product himself. He attended San Bernardino Valley College before transferring to Rocky Mountain College out in Billings, Montana, an NAIA school. Coach earned his master's degree in PE from Azusa Pacific University. Upon completion of high school, he knew he wanted to major in kinesiology and use that knowledge to teach and coach football. He was given that opportunity immediately after he graduated from college, started coaching at his high school alma mater. Coach Harris served as an offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, and head coach during the first 6 years, kind of a career that really took off at a very young age, right at the high school level. Then he was given an opportunity to make the jump to junior college, where he spent 14 years here in Southern California among a few of the top JCs out here. And his heart is in the trench warfare in the trenches. Continues his craftsmanship this year with a solid group of offensive linemen. Coach Harris is married to his beautiful wife, Julie. He has 2 daughters, Mariah and Jordan, and 2 sons, Christian and Caleb. You can follow Coach Harris on Twitter, at Indy, I-N-D-Y, O-Line Coach. That's at Indy O-Line Coach. Hey, give him a shout out. Let him know you heard about his work here on the Coach's Locker podcast. You are listening to the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore, a place for all coaches to call home. The Coach's Locker podcast is a part of the Football Coaching Podcast Network. Please visit footballcoachingpodcast.com to hear and see our entire lineup of top football coaches coming to you every single podcast with valuable information to help you and your program. The Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore exists to help prepare coaches to be hired for the job of their dreams and to provide coaches with dynamite resources to become even more successful in their field. You can reach me on Twitter at Coach Fore. That's at COACHFORE. And my podcast home is at 8laces.org/podcast. That's 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. Welcome to the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. Now, let's get after it. Hands up, forget about the past, 'cause you and I's everything I ever asked for. Top down round the West Coast. All right, well, we're here with Kiyoshi Harris. Coach, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Hey, appreciate you having me, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, and so we start every podcast when I have a guest here, we start with something called the Kickoff, the tip-off, and the first pitch. Just allows our guests to introduce themselves a little bit to the listeners of the show here. So, Coach, I got 7 questions for you. What's the first team you played on? The first team you ever played on, and what do you remember from that?
That's a good question. I think the first team I've ever had any kind of really good memories of playing on wasn't even a tackle football team. It was a flag football team. I actually still remember the name. They were called the Marfield Raiders. And, I was brought up in Carson, California, and I played out of a park league called Carriage Crest Park. And basically, we got together, a lot of guys. We were in elementary school at the same time. And I still talk to a few of the guys on the team, believe it or not. Of course, I'm a Raiders fan, and Marfields were where my dad worked, so they were like our sponsorship. So that's why they were called the Marfield Raiders. But it was just a good group of kids out there having fun, enjoying the time of their life, not worrying about anything, and just playing some flag football. I think a lot of us, we couldn't, it was weight limits, weight requirements, and so on. So we couldn't, meet the weight requirements of playing tackle football. So we were out there just trying to get it done in flag football.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Coach, how about the last team you played on? What you remember from that?
I think the last team was when I'm my last year in college in 1996. I played at a private school up in Montana called Rocky Mountain College, the best time of my life. And, we just came off a pretty bad junior season. I was going into my senior year. And, we ended up turning things around big time. And, we got different guys in that kind of transferred in some key spots. And, we ended up, making a run for it. We ended up beating Carroll. And, we just had a great year. And then, we didn't, of course, unfortunately, we didn't make it to the playoffs. We got a little nudged out, but, I had a great time and great senior year, and, wish I can do it all over again.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's those are some good old days right there. That Carroll was a great program back in the 90s there, NAIA.
Yeah, real good.
Now, where'd you play high school ball?
I played in Moreno Valley. I played at Canyon Springs High School in Moreno Valley in the early 90s.
Coach, there's a lot more schools out there now. Who were some of your rival schools, some of your big competitors there at Canyon Springs in the 90s?
Well, we had, of course, in the early 90s, we had Moreno Valley was our crosstown rival. Of course, they were, the high school in the same city as us, had a ton of talent, loaded with talent. And then, we went to a conference. They put us in a conference, the old Ivy League, with a lot of the Riverside schools. And, you still had J.W. North, Riverside Poly, Ramona back in the day. Of course, Rubidoux has always been a great program back in the 90s and, in the late 80s. So it was pretty good. Valley View was, of course, just coming on in at that time. And, they had some great athletes, David Dodson back in the day and, Kyle Turley, but they weren't in the same conference as we were.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of a shame when you look at some of the traditional, long-standing, very good football programs who, fall by the wayside over the years because of, new schools open and everybody wants the latest and greatest, I suppose. So you get a lot of the transfer into the new schools or what have you. It's just really interesting to see that. I think that here in California with population growth, what it is, it probably affects our state more than a lot of other states that, they haven't added a high school in 60 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, I see it, just recruiting out here for independence. I recruit the South, and, I get an opportunity to go, from Alabama, Mississippi to Arkansas to the Carolinas, to Texas. And, it's good football out here, of course. But, as far as California with just the transfer rate that's, increasing and kids jumping from school to school. And, you're starting to see it out here, a little bit, but not as much as out there in California.
Yeah. Coach, who's been your main mentor in the coaching profession?
I had a couple of them that I kind of learned from and just kept an open ear and just kind of watched kind of their every move. I think one of the ones that, and it was a sad that we lost him just a short while ago, and that was my junior college coach for a long time at San Bernardino Valley, is Ron Smedley. And Smed, he did a heck of a job, and, he had some great teams in San Bernardino and, in the 90s and so on. But, just looking at how I look back when I got a little bit older and just seeing how, his philosophy as far as recruiting, I kind of took an eye on that and, kind of wrote down some notes in the back of my head and just kind of ran with him. He did a good job. Plus, he was a player's coach, too, at the same time. But, he had that philosophy kind of we have here at Independence. Man, we're going to try to go out and get some of the best players in the country. And then, one of the coaches that gave me a shot in the junior college was Carl Beach, and he was a long-time assistant at San Bernardino Valley. But he also was the head coach at Chaffey College, who, I got my first junior college job. And I kind of just fell into his lap a little bit, even though he was an assistant coach when I was playing. And, he kind of took me underneath his wings and showed me the rope and gave me a lot of different opportunities over the years. And, I left and he came back and he opened me with open arms. And so, I liked the way how he kind of took his program and, from, I think he got there in 94, 95 and just kind of ran with it. And then, another buddy of mine who, I kind of learned a lot when I was coaching high school is Will Martin. And Will Martin, we met when I was at Moreno Valley High School, and, he has Juco experience. He has Division I experience. He did some internships in professional league, and just how, overall, and then once again, another player's coach, and just kind of seeing what's the importance of certain things and certain aspects when it comes to running the program. And, so those three guys right there.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been around some good ones, Coach. What's the worst mistake you ever made as a coach?
I think as a young coach, Chris, that sometimes, especially in junior college, when it comes to recruiting and, you're at one place and then, you recruit some guys and you kind of label them as your guys and, they're really, realistically, they're like program guys. And, and I left one community college and went back to another one and I took a kid with me and, and I think that was, as I look back on it now, I was, I probably shouldn't have did it. It kind of worked out for us in the long run, but at the time, I was a young coach who wasn't thinking about it. Just a mistake I probably wouldn't make again as far as just, recruiting them. If you decide it's part of the profession, coaches leave, they come and go. If the kid is there, then, he needs to stay there.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense. You wouldn't want to make that mistake again. How about your greatest accomplishment as either, in the game, either a player, a game, a season? What are you most proud of along the way here, Coach?
I think this past year coming into Independence is one of the top. There's a couple of them, but as a coach, just coming in to a program where it's just now getting started and, with a lot of high expectations and coming into a conference like the Jayhawk Conference who, is ridiculously tough and, trying to make a run at it and just kind of meet the expectations that we set for ourselves this past year of Independence and, achieving those goals, going 9-2, winning our first conference championship in, dang near 40 years and winning our first bowl game ever in the school history. I think it was a memorable season and something, one of those seasons that you just don't forget, besides the rings and the T-shirts and, all the gear and everything, but just seeing how, the team came together and kind of for one purpose and continued to kind of get better over the season and, end up some good things happened at the end.
Yeah, that season you guys had last year was just absolutely amazing. As you said, first championship in 40 years. I mean, what was that like in the community? What did that do for the community there in Kansas?
Me kind of being an outsider kind of, and, I just, straight got here in July and went to work and, we got into it and just kind of got things rolling and then starting to see, just the kind of question marks in people's face at first. And then once, we started winning a few games after that first game, of course. And once we started winning a few games and, starting to see more and more people come into the stands, into the crowd. And, it's a small community, about 10,000 people in the town. And so you walk in a store, you walk into a restaurant and, people congratulate you and say, hey, good job. We're looking forward to the game, and then, a lot of people, you'll be at the gas station pumping gas, Chris, and somebody will say, hey, man, our team hasn't been good in 37, 38 years. You guys are doing a great job over there, and you're hearing that multiple times. That kind of, gives you a good little feeling, good little energy, like, okay, let's get back in this office and kind of continue this success. But, of course, when when a team has been down for a while, you're going to have those people that just, once you start winning, come on out the woodworks, but then you also have your true fans and support of the people in the town that's grown up around Independence football and who's been a part of Independence football, has gone to Independence or have a spouse or a child that's gone to Independence. And, those are their true supporters. And, win or lose, they're there at the game cheering you on. And, in the sun or the snow, they're there at the game cheering you on. So it's good to see those people too. But, it was a good season.
So, Coach, let me ask you this, because I know you left a community college out here in Southern California for a community college out there in Kansas, one that I guess it probably could be argued that, you left a very good program here in SoCal for a less than stellar program in Kansas. Why did you make that move to a program who hadn't won a championship in 40 years? And, what attracted you to make that kind of a move out there?
There's a couple of things. One, I wanted to be able to coach football full time. For the longest time, I was doing, the double dipping, the two jobs where I was teaching, high school physical education all day, and then hurrying up and skirting on over and coaching football and teaching at the junior college at night, and I did that for years. And I think, part of the reason is because, I wanted to wait till my last son graduated high school and, got off into college, just some stability a little bit. And so I wanted to coach football full time. And then the next thing is, good friend of mine, one of my best friends, Coach Brown, crazy self. He's the head coach out here and he had a vision and, we talked about it for years. And, even before I came out here, he would bring me on out and just kind of, clinic some of his guys a little bit, and we just kind of check things on out. And when I used to come out here those couple 2 or 3 times, I saw the vision that he had to try to make this program a dominant one of the best in the country. And I taught some different people on campus, and everybody was willing to buy in, and so that kind of made my decision a little bit easier. And it didn't turn out to be a permanent thing. I was only supposed to come out here for a semester, and one season, let's try to win a conference championship and let's try to win a national championship. And I was going to go back to Cali, but things worked out for the best, and I'm still here.
That's awesome. That's great. So, yeah, I mean, you took advantage of a great offer, great scenario there. How long Coach Brown? How long has he been there?
Coach, he's going on his 3rd year, Chris.
Okay, so last year was just his 2nd year, and he had that kind of success. That's awesome.
Yeah, first year he went 5-4, second year 9-2. So we're looking to keep it going.
Yeah, moving into the 3rd year here. Coach, I did a big study years ago. I've always kind of been intrigued when studying champions and studying coaches. A lot of times you see that real success come in that 3rd year, and I just for about a week after school every day, it was in the spring, I had a little time. And I studied, I laid out every head coach who won a Super Bowl and kind of looked at the years and, their win-loss record over those years and that sort of thing. And it's about I think it was average like 3.7, in that 3rd year is when that average head football coach had won a Super Bowl. So it is interesting. I think it takes a little time to get, Juco is a little different. You don't have kids there usually, for 3 years total. But I know in a lot of programs, athletic programs out there, it takes a couple of years to get everybody on board pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, it does. And, we're having, we got our goals, same goals. We added to them a little bit, we're just trying to raise the bar a little bit and try to meet those goals. And we understand is, we have a one tongue language over here. Everybody speaks the same language. And, we know it's year 3 and we expect to win. So that's our philosophy.
Talking with Coach Kiyoshi Harris here from Independence College out in Kansas. Back to the kickoff, the tip-off and the first pitch here. Coach, how about your favorite vacation spot?
Something, Chris, I'm like, I love my time when I was in Montana, just the outdoors and, just the green and the trees and just, the wilderness and so on like that. So, I don't mind just, packing up and going up to the mountains. We didn't live that far and, just camping, roughing in the tent if I had to. And, my wife doesn't like the tent too much, but, I like the outdoors. I like the wilderness and, and I was going to try to buy a cabin up in the mountains if I didn't take a job out here. That was our next move. But I also like the river too. So I'm kind of like, every year we have the family river trips and, unfortunately I missed the last couple, but, it is what it is and, trying to chase the dream. But, I love going to the river. It's 115 degrees out there and just, floating down the river, sitting there with family on the jet skis or on the boat and just, having a good time.
Coach, how about your favorite thing to do? You might have just hit on it a little bit. Your favorite thing to do outside of coaching, outside of spending time with family. How about a hobby? Any kind of hobbies you have?
There's a couple. I like watching, believe it or not, I'm a movie guy. When I have time, it's hard for me to sit down a little bit at one spot. It seems like I'm always up, got that little ADD kicking in a little bit. But when I'm able to sit down, there's some, I was a 90s baby, so there's some great movies that was brought up in, the 80s and the 90s and even nowadays. So I like watching movies and, just sitting down and relaxing and kind of getting your mind off football. I like working out too. That's a big thing. Me and my wife has been working out since we've been out here together and, just trying to keep my heart going during the season. And so, which is good, how the stress level can be as football coaches and just, the time constraint as well. So, we don't get as much time to work out in the season. So trying to, take advantage of the time right now, but just movies and working out is big, spending time with family.
Favorite 80s movie?
Oh man, shoot, there's a bunch of them. Hey, let me try it. Let me see. You got me throwing me for a loop. What's crazy is me and Coach Brown, we sit around and that's one thing we connect with is the movies. I like The Best of Times. I think that's in the 80s, but with Robin Williams over there at Taft High School. Or is it Taft College? Taft High School. Yep. So that's one of my favorites right there.
How about Top Gun, Coach? That's my favorite.
Oh man, I love Top Gun. I think they're gonna remake it, right? Or
Yeah,
did they
that's what I
remake
heard.
it?
Yeah, I heard they're making a second one. Right
Yeah.
now. So Coach Harris here, Coach is at Independence Community College, associate head coach, offensive line coach. Independence Community College is out there in Independence, Kansas. So, Coach, take us through your journey. How did you get into this great game, coaching? How'd you get started?
You know, I tell people this story, Chris, and they kind of look at me like, no way. Well, I knew right off the bat I wanted to be a kind of a physical education teacher. You know, I wanted to be a teacher and in high school. You know, Coach Fogarty, Jack Fogarty, he was my high school coach, long time winning, successful coach out, in the Inland Empire. And I just took notice kind of what him and his assistants did every day as far as, just teaching and the camaraderie they had and interacting with kids. So I knew right when I was leaving high school, I wanted to be a physical education teacher. And then so that's what I went to school for. But, by like most of us know, to be a physical education teacher, you're probably going to have to coach. So, I knew that in the back of my head, I was probably going to have to coach. And then so I started winding down, and I was, almost towards the end of my career, college career. And, I'm just thinking like, the season's over now and I'm working out like crazy and I'm missing the game, and the next best thing to playing is, of course, coaching. So it also helped me get my first job. So he was able to help me get my first job too at the same time. So I went back to Marina Valley and the Marina Valley Unified School District, and I started coaching at Canyon Springs High School and Marina Valley High School, and that helped me able to get my first teaching job, and and I just kind of went from there.
So, yeah, same way a lot of guys do it back at their own high school. That's how I started back in the 90s myself at Fallbrook High. And then so you take that first job, you're coaching high school. What was the next move, Coach? Kind of walk us through the progression of your career to Independence.
Okay, I'm coaching high school football back at my alma mater. I'm actually coaching freshman football. And, I'm just like, young coach, first year in, I'm just loving it, So then, I get a job. I have to get transferred over to, of course, across town Marina Valley High School, get on over there, love it. I coached high school for about 4 years at Marina Valley, under Coach Rocky Ford and, of course, Will Martin. And then some budget cuts come around and, I get transferred over to the new high school. And, so I'm there for a year, but I'm still coaching at Marina Valley. I have a bond. I said, you can move me over to the new high school, give me one more year, let me coach, finish these guys' senior year. And then the very next year, I was named head coach at the new high school, Vista Del Lago High School. So I was head coach for a year there. And, I kind of regretted at the time. I was there for a year, had an opportunity to get in junior college. It was one of those things where I didn't think the opportunity was going to come around again. As I look back at it, I probably should have stayed at least, 2 or 3 years, because we had a great staff, had some great talent, some great kids, believe it or not. When the school just opened up, we had a great principal, Mrs. Mary Jones, and, she gave us all the support, believe it or not, the support that you're not seeing a lot at, nowadays at a lot of high schools. And, our staff, I had guys on campus, and everybody was looking at me, Chris, like crazy, like, why are you walking away from this? But I was just intrigued about getting into the college level. And being in Southern California in the Inland Empire, there's not too many four-year colleges just around besides, the SCIAC, the Division III schools, which, are great schools. And, so, and then, of course, you have your Azusa Pacific, and then you have, the Division I schools, FBS, Power Five, but there's not too many. So most of the time, it's a quick way to get your college career started, to go junior college route. So I knew a few coaches over at Chafee, and, it was a decision I had to make. So I ended up resigning from Vista Del Lago High School after a year and taking the job at Chafee. And then from Chafee, I was there for 3 years and kind of fell in love with, the junior college football. I was able to go out and recruit my own type of guys and, trying to bring in some good talent. We had some good years and good teams over there. I learned a lot of football. I thought I knew a lot of football going in, even as a head coach, and I learned even more, going into Chafee, which was good. And from there, Coach Martin was over at COD, so he, they were struggling a little bit, and so I went over there and coached for a couple of years, and then I went back to Chafee with Coach Beach, and then after, I wanted to try to get the 4-year shot. And, I just needed a little bit of change. And so Coach Mike Maynard over at Redlands does a great job. Been there almost 30 years, man. There with the Redlands Bulldogs. he gave me a shot. So I went in there for a year, and man, I had one of the best years of my life over there coaching at Redlands. And he runs a great program. I have the utmost respect for Coach Maynard and his staff over there. And a lot of people ask me kind of what's the difference between the SCIAC and Division III and Juco. Is it the same type of talent? We had some great talent over there. Those kids love football. They, it didn't matter what level or what division it was, and a lot of that has to do with Coach Maynard and the staff. And then, but financially, it was just one of those things where, I had some kids just going off into college and, so I had to make the move back to junior college. And so I went back to Chaffee, and, we had a good, 3 years run over there. And then, fortunately, I just kept in contact with Coach Brown, and he was able to give me a shot over here.
So, Coach, during that time when you're moving around from the JCs, were you still teaching?
Yeah, I was still teaching. I taught high school for 19 years.
Yeah.
And so, I was still teaching. And even when I was coaching at University of Redlands, I was still teaching, at the high school. So
yeah. Do you ever, you said you kind of regretted being there at Del Lago just for that 1 year. Del Lago, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you ever look back and go, man, you know what? I wish I would have just stayed at the high school level at one place for 20 years, or do you one of those guys where, man, you just really enjoyed moving on to that college level? You look back with no regrets.
Man, I look back, Chris, and let's look at the career and, and 20 years of coaching, I'm just like, I have no regrets. I learned from each place I've been to, and that kind of helped me, over the years and kind of helped me become a better coach and the person I am today. I really, besides maybe staying 1 or 2 more years at Del Lago, I'm kind of glad I did what I did. And, if I didn't, I wouldn't be in the position where I'm at today.
Sure. Coach, so this past season, 2017, I coached JC ball for the first time, and man, I had a blast on a lot of the areas, a lot of the parts of coaching junior college. The athletes were amazing compared to most of the high school level I've been at. So working with that caliber athletes we had here at Victor Valley Community College was very good, and but there were definitely aspects of it I did not like. To be honest with you, Coach, one of those was recruiting. And all I had to do was recruit some kickers because I coached special teams. But I went out. My family was on vacation. Our first team kicker, he got a scholarship real late out to Division II school in Florida. So I lose my number one kicker when I'm on vacation, and then my number 2 kicker, local kid, incoming freshman. Head coach brings him in. Hey, Austin is off. He got a scholarship. You're our number 1 guy now, and then he quits the next day. So I get a text on vacation from my head coach that we don't have a kicker now, and this is late June, so I'm panicking, but I remember this email from a coach out in Vegas, so I talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, is it okay? We need to stop and watch this kid out here in Vegas. I want to go watch him kick. I'm not even sure if I was allowed to do that, but if I did, I broke some rules. I don't know now, but anyway, I'm not coaching there anymore. So we go out. I go spend an hour with this kid and his coach out in Vegas, watching him kick, and worked real hard on him. And then he said no. He chose another JC out here, and I'm like, man, I guess the first kid I really recruited said no to me, turned me down, Coach. I think that's a really hard part of the college job.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm not even going to say it just comes natural because that's not it. You got to, get used to, the grind of recruiting and, the repetitive and the multiple calls and the texts and, being told no and, and not accepting being told no and, just trying to sell your program. That's the key right there. We just don't accept no, kid hey, I might be trying to go here, coach. Oh, okay. But, hey, look, we don't accept no. So, but, and that we know that's just part of it. And you got to try to find that right person. And, and the one thing I learned, coaching junior college in California is the turnover rate is real high and so on. So it's huge and everything.
Yeah, it was being told no. It was like it took me back to asking that girl to dance in freshman year of high school. I didn't like being rejected.
Yeah.
So, Coach, what advice do you have to guys who might want to move on to that junior college level?
Man, my advice would be, of course, set your goals. If that's one of the goals, and kind of go after it, of course. And just don't think about the money aspect. Think about the long term, and find you a program that you're familiar with. The thing about with junior college is what we were just talking about. The biggest thing is about recruiting. So, you got to have some kind of recruiting ties, and so that'll kind of help you out, try to land you a gig, and, especially in Southern California. So, for example, if you're an Inland Empire guy and, you're looking for a junior college job in LA, maybe you might know somebody, but if not, you got to have some kind of tie as far as to help you get in, and recruiting is one thing that'll help you get in. And, so, just set your goals, and, if that's something that you want to do, you don't look to go in there and make tons of money, because you're not going to make tons of money. Look to go in there and, to kind of advance your career and learn some things, and be around some good group of guys, and do some good football at the junior college level. So,
yeah. Coach, talk to me about the process. I'm sure, have you been a part of hiring guys at the junior college level?
Yes.
Okay. So talk to me about that, because that's part of, what I do with my consulting business, is helping guys with their job search, and what kind of process have your programs used to hire coaches? I think a lot of coaches think that, that their experience, hey, I've coached 25 years of high school, I'm ready for a junior college. And I tell them all the time, I mean, that's not necessarily true, But what's that process been like for you on the hiring end? You've been a coach to help hire assistants. What's that process like?
I think a lot of times, there's a lot of great coaches out there at the high school level, and love talking football with guys and Chris, and then there's a lot of great coaches at the junior college and 4-year level, and there's continuing learners. But I think a lot of times, when we're looking to hire a guy, it's not really about the X's and O's, as much, it's more about, time constraint is a huge thing. There's a huge difference between, here at Independence compared to, what we were at Chafee College. I think that, the big thing about Southern California is, a lot of times you have a lot of walk-on coaches. And so you got to look for guys who have an open schedule, and, as far as the later part of the day, and, is able to, to be freed up so they can come in and coach and be at practice at a certain time, and, a certain type of job. And, and then also we look for, what kind of high school ties does the guy have, is, and so on. Where out here, I myself has interviewed guys multiple times with Coach Brown, and, most of our guys live on campus, and, we work long hours, and, we practice at 5:30 in the morning, and sometimes, our day consists of going to 10:30, 10 o'clock at night. And, a lot of our guys on staff, are unpaid or volunteer, and they just get, dorms and meals. And so it's, you're looking for that right guy that, doesn't have that ego, that's just a worker that's, that just wants to be a part of something special, and, it's not afraid to get out and to get dirty, man. Our guys, on the staff do a lot of different things. Some people think that you're just going to come in and coach football. Here at Independence, it's not like that. It's probably about 10 to 15% football, and everything else is just monitoring, chasing these guys around, from classes to financial aid to dorm checks to taking them here to make sure they're there, and, the meetings. And, some of our guys, they paint the field, they water the field, and, it's just a bunch of stuff that we do. We all clean the offices, and it's, a lot of stuff that people think that is not part of football, where they just want to go in, step on the field, and, and kind of go from there. So we're looking and trying to get that vibe, that feeling from that guy that just wants to kind of be a part of it. And, a lot of times, it's not the guy that's been there 25 years. I'm not saying we don't have guys like that on our staff, but, a lot of those type of guys that I've ran across, A, are not willing to take a huge pay cut like that, and then B, or, how many guys are willing to just to kind of step in. Most people have families just for, room and board, and, or meals and board, and just kind of, grind and coach football. So, it's kind of a, we look for a certain type of guy.
Yeah, it's got to be a certain type of guy. I think that's one thing a lot of guys just don't understand is, there's only like you said, there's only a certain amount of full-time jobs. I know here at the junior college next to me, I think he only has one guy, himself, and one other on there as full-time guys. Other than that, there's another coach there who gets, paid for maybe teaching 3 classes. Other than that, it's all, walk-on type guys. So I know it's different in every Juco, but the opportunity to become a full-time guy is very rare. And that's one thing I didn't like. I know you said you did it for a long time, 19 years, high school, and then going over to the JC. That kind of drove me crazy this past year, working until 2:30 as a special ed teacher, and then, changing clothes, literally putting on a different hat, running out to the practice field. It does take someone a little unique, to do that. So, Coach, let's talk about. I know you're you're an O-line coach, been coaching O-line for a whole long time. Where do you get that passion to coach the offensive line?
I think, I've been the head coach, been offense coordinator, I've coached a couple different positions, but I just think, for me, just playing the position, and that's where my passion comes from, and a lot of the stuff I've learned, a lot of times guys want to coach the things that they're comfortable in, and I'm comfortable coaching the offensive line, but that doesn't mean I can't coach other positions. In college football, a lot of times you might have to coach a position, if you're looking for that job or want that job that you didn't play. And so I just think, it's one of those things, my heart kind of lies in the trench, and, and that's what's important. It's a huge job. It's a big job. And, a lot of guys don't understand what it takes as far as, when it starts up front. But, as I have ambitions of one day, being a head coach, maybe, again, and, at the college level. But for right now, I'm comfortable coaching offensive line. And I think that's huge right there, because sometimes you get a lot of coaches who, are so eager to climb the ladder and do this and do that they kind of forget about, what's important now. And, right now is, we're going to be young up front, and we got to get these guys coached up.
Yeah, I think you got to have a real passion to coach that O-line. I was talking to someone the other day about, guys coaching offensive line. I see it kind of one of two ways. You either got offensive line coaches who, like you said, who want to move up the ladder, so they'll go, they kind of get bored, so they want to go, be the quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, or something like that. So you see guys make that move, and sometimes it works out okay, sometimes it doesn't. And then you got guys, who are just, they're so arrogant, they think, I can just coach any other position, because they get bored or what have you with the O-line. But there's not a doubt in my mind, offensive line coach, most important coach on the field, in my opinion. In your opinion, what's the most important thing an offensive line coach has got to teach?
Probably one of the most important things at all, I think it starts, from the ground up. I think the huge thing about coaching, and it's kind of off the subject of the question, but the huge thing about coaching is the best coaches are teachers. And I think the progression of your teaching and just your teaching mechanics and just progression of your teaching in general is huge. But, I learned a lot of stuff, Chris, for guys that, that I've coached that are long, like right now they're offensive line coaches. I'm always, willing to learn some different things, but I think the game has changed a little bit, but not a lot as far as when it comes up front. It's just new, different type of teaching mechanics and different types of drills and so on. But I think it all starts, from the ground up, meaning from your stance and your steps and so on like that to the fits and, as far as with your run game and, just your balance and your posture and, when it comes to the pass game. So I think a lot of guys and a lot of times, talking to different guys, we forget about all that. And, we're so into scheming and just, and the newer age stuff. And, we forget about the little stuff. So, and there's some good guys out there right now that, that are teaching some great things. And, every chance I get, I try to just, watch a little video or kind of read something up on it. And, Charles Bentley Bentley's out there, and, he's doing a great job doing some different things, and a lot of other different people I just, love talking football with. So, but I think, we start from the basics, like kind of how I was taught. And, I'm saying, it starts from the stance and your balance and, your weight distribution, and you kind of work your way up to your steps, and, have some certain rules about certain things. And a lot of times, you're coaching these guys, and we get them from all over the country, and, you get guys in here, and, you just ask them different questions about, well, why did you do this in high school? And, to know the whys, and they can't tell you. And so now, and I'm a huge guy when it comes to that. You got to know the whys. Why we do certain things. Because if they know why we do certain things, then basically they're not going to second guess themselves. So
you mentioned Charles Bentley. Who are some other guys that you kind of look to for, advice or coaching points and tidbits out there?
Man, there's because of Coach Saga, he's O-line coach over there at, University of Mexico, and he does a great job. And, he's at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Coach Thompson, who's at TCU, and, he used to be at, Arizona State, and, just talking to some of these guys. And then, you just got some of the guys that are not even, coaching college football. They're just out there training guys and, doing different things. And, a lot of times they post different videos, and you just catch an eye for them, like, okay, or you watch some of their guys do some different things on, that they put on social media. Social media is a great tool nowadays for the guys to learn, just different things about football. And, that's something that we didn't have, really when I was coming up, or even when I first started coaching. I remember the old school, we had the VHS tapes, and you had to go to the clinic to buy the tapes, and you had the DVDs, and you had to go to the clinic to buy the DVDs, and now everything's done online now, and you can talk to people, and, you can, shoot, nowadays you don't even have to go to clinics, you can just go online, and the clinic's right there, right in front of you. And so, the times are changing, but realistically, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of guys out there that are, learning a lot of good things about offensive line play. And, I've yet still to make, to make myself way to a cool clinic. And, I think that's my goal. And my head coach, he just sent me an email about all the cool clinic videos that, he said he'll purchase and form in. I can, it's crazy because you can get like the last 20 years of videos, and they're selling them. But I think I want to, me personally, I want to sit in front of the speakers and, go old school, get my notebook out, get my pen and my pencil, and, write down some stuff. And that's the way I learn. Coach,
what's on a weekly basis, like, walk us through how you're preparing your offensive linemen throughout the course of the week. Like, what's a Monday everyday drill look like? A Tuesday. What are some of those big ones you hit on during the week?
Okay, well, basically Monday's more of our, it's our rest day, it's our off day. It's a lift day for us, it's a video day for us, it's a walkthrough day for us, it's a clean up mistake type of day for us from the previous day, and from the previous Saturday, excuse me. So we use Monday to do that, where we'll film and talk them and walk them and start to introduce, some of the stuff that we're going to see from the upcoming week. So we clean up our mistakes and just kind of why it's fresh in their head, and start to implement by that time Monday when we see our guys. We already have somewhat of an idea of what we're going to see defensively, so we start to introduce it to them. And then on Tuesday, of course, it's a full go practice, and we're in full gear. And some people might agree, some people might not agree. I still am a sled guy. For certain purposes. A lot of people don't believe in sled. Some people do, and I'm a shoot guy. I believe getting down in the shoot and keeping our pad level low, and doing different things. So that's one of those things. I try to hit the shoot and sled every day, and we break our EDD down into progressions of kind of what we do for our inside zones and outside zones, and then of course we have our periods of we start to scheme, where it's the different fronts that we're going to see against our inside zones and our outside zones, and on a Wednesday and a Thursday, it's a blitz pickup day, so we start going over different pressures that we'll start to see as far as pass pro. But I think, we never get away. And I learned that a long time ago, Chris, and, it's just something that kind of stuck with me when I was a coaching one year, I kind of got away. We might have hit the sled, I'm one of those muscle memory guys where, just kind of train their legs. You got to do something to keep their legs trained. And that's not saying that you have to kill them, just to pop something every day. Some guys do it in the chute, which is bags. Some guys do it on a sled. And, we hit the stationary sled too at the same time for fits and hips. But I just one year remember that, we didn't hit the sled like, I was used to hitting the sled, and I saw it in our run game, and it suffered. And so from then on out, every year since then, I've said, hey, we're going to be one of those guys. We're going to keep the muscle memory going in our legs and keep driving different things. And so that's what we do. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we kind of break our EDD drills down. And I kind of never get away from our basics, believe it or not. And I think that's something that kind of saves us. A lot of guys get away from their basics, and we practice those kind of every day. We actually, have a period in pre-practice where, it's kind of funny because we might start practice at 5:45 in the morning. Well, as O-line, we're out there getting it going at 5:30. So from 5:30 to about 5:45, we're out there just reviewing our basics. And then, we in the next 10 minutes, we got some sled work. So we try to use an extra 15 minutes of our practice, earlier than everybody else to kind of just to cover our basics.
So, yeah, you're the man, a little more out of those old linemen every day.
Oh, yeah. I tell them I get my guys believing, and, like most people, we're the only position that that hits every down. Is going to have making contact with every down. Sometimes they say, well, D linemen hit every down. No, because you got guys dropping nose tackles nowadays. You guys got guys twisting and looping around, dropping defensive ends. But we're one of those positions that, somehow we're going to try to make contact every down. So, and then plus, we just want to come with that philosophy that, when you play us, that you're going to have to work for 60 minutes. So 4 quarters of football, 60 minutes, we're going to be ready to go. So we're out there a little bit earlier.
Coach, what are some mistakes you see as you're out recruiting? Obviously I don't want you to name schools or nothing here, but what are some mistakes you see in O-line coaches or in some of the habits of O-linemen that are some of the big glaring things you see out there?
Yeah, I think one of the huge issues is like a lot of, and that's just not just for O-line, it's just that people are, like high school kids are not lifting weights anymore, Chris. You know what I'm saying? The kids, for a variety of whatever different reasons, whether they're, doing the 7-on-7, doing track or doing basketball or whatever, or maybe there's not a huge staff on campus, but, a lot of programs I'm starting to see, the kids are coming to us, just not prepared as far as in the weight room. Not everybody, but just some of them, and, as far as lacking strength, lacking flexibility, and just a little bit of twitches, some things at the weight room. Maybe I'm just getting older, at 43, I'm just like, I go back to old school. Weight room wins football games and so on like that, especially in high school. But, I don't know. So that's kind of one of the things that, I'm starting to see. And then, the next thing, is the lineman's flexibility. There, a lot of kids are coming in, unless they're just a pure athlete, and you get some of those type of guys, those freakish athlete type of guys. A lot of guys are coming in stiff at the hips and, and the hamstrings. And, it's just, you can tell from basically not getting any kind of off-season work or not getting any summer work. And so that's just one thing that, we got to look at.
Coach, what are you looking for now? You hit a little bit of it right here, but as you're out recruiting, what attributes are you looking for in offensive linemen?
Coach, I tell it's like all the time. It's like infatuation. When you walk into the room and you see a kid that's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", sometimes 6'8", you just like, okay, you're not going to turn that away, you're not going to turn that down. Of course, we want length just like everybody else. A lot of coaches, a lot of players. A lot of schools, a lot of coaches, they're all looking for the same thing, the length of the guys and the long arms and the slender type of guys, kind of getting away from the 350s, 360 type of offensive linemen. So that's a huge thing. And of course, when I'm looking and recruiting a guy, I kind of look at, what type of level of competition that they're playing at too. Playing in the Jayhawk, just our defensive line alone is going to probably be one of the best in the country. Just the guys that they're going to face every day in practice, defensive end wise, D tackle wise, just the box players in general. So, you might have a kid that might be, 6'4", 6'5", it looks pretty dang good, but hasn't played the type of competition that he's going to see, every day in practice. So that plays a huge part, with us. And then I like that first and second step, man. I like to see if that kid has that first or second step, when I'm watching film, if the kid can run. We've recruited kids that are not that well on their first and second step, can't fit at all, but, and top heavy, but can run. And, so we just try to trust our coaching that we can kind of get it done. And, this guy's an athletic freak at 330 pounds. So let's try to see and make something happen with him. So we'll go after a guy like that.
Do you have a minimum height you guys you require there?
Because I'm a short guy, but dang, so I'm 5'11", so, but I gotta, I don't want to, but I don't recruit nobody that's my size, but that's a joke, and it seems like I'm likely getting shorter and shorter as, every year, every season, but, it all depends, as a center, 6'2", 6'1.5", if he can play, of course we would like that 6'3" type of guy, but, our kid that we have, right now, 6'1.5", 6'2", and he's going to be a good one, so, but in at the guard spots, we would of course like 6'4" or higher, but, if a kid is 6'2" can play, Chris, I'm not going to turn him down. That's just be dumb, because I've coached a lot of guys that haven't been 6'4", 6'5", that just been some dogs, and and then I've coached a lot of dudes that that's been 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and it's been, and they need some work, and that needed a year underneath the belt or two, and so it all depends. If a kid can play, I believe he can play, and there's a place, like a coach told me a long time ago, there's a place to play for everybody. There's so many schools out there. So if a kid is 6'1.5", 6'2", and he can play, we're going to help him find a place to play if he can help us win, and he's going to buy in. So
yeah. Coach, talk to me. I always like hearing this from coaches. Take me through game day at Independence. What does your game day look like?
Oh, shoot. Game days is a special, intense day over here. If we're playing at home, we used to play, 6 o'clock in the evening. So, our kids, they usually have meetings in the morning. We allow them to sleep in a little bit. They get up for brunch, and, and they usually eat brunch. And usually we meet in the morning with them to go over some last-minute details, maybe a little walkthrough, and then they go to brunch, and then they come on back, and they get a little time to chill, and then we have a team meal, which is a little bit earlier, and kind of like a late lunch type of thing, and then of course we have a walkthrough, offense and defensive walkthrough. We have a special team walkthrough where we call all our guys out and make sure everybody's on the same page. If somebody goes down, and who's there going to be the backup, and it's going to be the replacement. We play at a city field, so it's probably about a 10-minute drive away from our campus. So we start loading up and start loading them up the vans and the buses and the training staff, and we start getting everything over there. As far as assistant coaches, some of the younger coaches, they got to go a little bit earlier and, get things set up, take all the equipment, the cameras, and, just whatever, materials and necessities we need as far as to get things, ready for the game. And we start rolling in there. If it's a 6 o'clock game, probably maybe about 3:30, 3:45. And, our kids, they, I wouldn't say they're loose, but, they do what they have to do to get their mind right for the game. They go out there, they were able to walk the field and got their music going and the music in the locker room. And it's kind of like, some people will look at it as like maybe, being too loose. And then, whereas we look at it as our kids is preparing, the right way. And, and then we get together and we start the wave going out, and of course our skills. And then we come back in, our head coach talks to them. And after we do our little pregame, and we get out there and we get ready to put on a show for our fans.
Outstanding, Coach. So you guys are in a unique situation out there at Independence Community College. You had some visitors this past year. Am I right?
Yes.
You guys got coming out today on Netflix, July 20th, Last Chance Season 3, featuring Independence Community College. So tell me, what was that like, Coach, having cameras with you? When did they show up?
I believe they got, the crew got here probably early August of last year. And, they stayed for the next 3.5 months and, came back, for a signing date. And so, I think they got here early August and just, worked, from the time we started camp, or maybe a little bit earlier, maybe in late July, and they was here with us for a couple of weeks, and they took maybe like a 2-week break, and then they came on back, and they were here for about 3.5 straight months.
So what's that like? Like, did you guys have a crew of guys following you around, like following a position group around, or what does that look like at a practice?
They kind of have like their own, their own task in hand. There's 2 crews, and they're a great bunch of guys, and there's a couple gals in there, and and it's kind of like they became our good friends, and we practice early, so we practice at 5:45 in the morning, so 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. So they have one crew that starts at that time that's there for practice every day, and then there's another crew I believe starts a little bit later, maybe like 8 or 9. And so you might have one crew that's on campus, and Coach Brown, gives them free reign of a lot of stuff, so which is good. And then you might have another crew that's out in the community interviewing people, and so on. So you're not really seeing 30 people at one time, but you got to go through the daily task of being mic'd up, and sometimes that that can be a pain in the butt sometimes because you forget and you're mic'd up, and you might have a personal call that you need to make or whatever, but. Or you're going to the bathroom, or but what they try to give you is the respect that you need, and and the freedom that you need. But you signed up for it, so it is what it is. But after a while, for about the first 2 or 3 weeks, it's kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? But then after a while, it's just like, I'm a football coach. I want to coach football, and let's try to win some games, And that it's not like you don't know that they're there, but that they're there, but you just don't really think about it as much. You're more focused on trying to win, your upcoming opponent than anything.
You kind of just kind of forget that those folks are there.
You got the big cameras and so on like that, but after a while, if you're going to spend the next 4 months of your life walking on eggshells, you're not being yourself. They want you to be yourself. And so that's what we did, and that's why I think it's going to get ratings, and and Coach Brown is he is what he is, and because we're ourselves, we were ourselves for about the first week and 2 weeks. You're like, man, let me not try to embarrass my family. You know what I'm saying? We tell the kids that too at the same time. In 20 years, your grandkids might look at this on TV and say, hey, look, man, there's Grandpa right there, and he's just doing this, and this. So, but after a while, you're just like, man, let me just be myself. But in the back of your mind, you're still like, as for me, I don't want to embarrass my family, Chris. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just still like I'm trying to win football games, And you got 2 choices. I said you can win football games on camera, or you can lose football games on camera. Which one would you rather have? So I'd rather win football games on camera, and kind of go from there.
So, Coach, you got interesting that you guys had the best season in 40 years there, and it was the year that it was all documented on camera. I mean, do you think that there was any – I'm sure those kids play a little harder when cameras are rolling. What do you think?
Yeah, our kids get after it, but, the crazy thing about it is, like, we got some good kids, and we got some dogs. We got some special talent here too. At the same time, the conference is loaded with talent, and I tell people this all the time. I said we got to play our best game against everybody. I said everybody plays their best game against us because of the camera. So it's not like it's just you're going to walk in there and you might have that team that's only won 2 games. And you say, oh, this is, we're going to get this one. This is for sure a 30-pointer. It's not like that. It's like you got to come strap it up every game, because that team that might only won 2 games or 1 game is going to bring their best game that day, just because they don't want to look bad on camera. So it's kind of like, it puts us in a position that way we better come strapped up, ready to go every Saturday.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it, man. I know somebody famous now.
Yeah, no, never. Hey, I'm just football coach, man. Just trying to help a few kids out and coach some good football and enjoy it at the same time. And I think that's key, man. It's just you got to enjoy what you do. And right now, I love what I do, and so we'll keep it going.
Yeah, that show really took off a couple of years ago, and I'm a big Netflix guy, so I think it's only gained a lot more steam and momentum over the years. So I think it'll have more eyeballs on it than ever, and I look forward to watching it just to see that story too. I mean, incredible story of you guys, winning that championship last year. So, Coach, hey, thanks for your time. I know I know you spent about an hour here with us, and I can't thank you enough for the insights you've given into coaching at the JC level, coaching the O-line, and talking a little bit here about Last Chance U. So thank you very much, Coach. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, Chris. Thank you very much, buddy.
All right. That's it. That wraps up episode 8 of the Coach's Locker podcast. Thank you for listening. Hope you really enjoyed that ride there with Coach Harris. I know I'm really looking forward to watching Last Chance U here, seeing Coach Harris in action with his team. What a tremendous season they had last year, and all of that in front of the camera is pretty cool. Remember to check out the Football Coaching Podcast Network. Visit footballcoachingpodcast.com to hear our entire lineup of top football coaches. We've really got some great coaches as a part of this network. If you haven't checked that out yet, make sure to do that. Hey, follow me on Twitter at Coach4. My podcast home is 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. You can find all the show notes and links to all of our shows there. And until next time, we're signing off.